Hello and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined today by Ian Doyle.
Hello, how you doing?
Ian. Not too bad, how are you?
I'm quite tired, but we're here now, so let's crack on.
Yeah, it seems to be the same trio all the time, doesn't it, Theo Squires?
Yeah, I'm not stripy today though, so you can't pick on my shirt. I went for a very plain black number.
Yeah, well, good for you, good for you. Not a polo, you're a polo man, aren't you?
Yeah, we sort of went a bit more informal, didn't we, after the pandemic when we got back in the office, opposed to shirt and tie every day, apart from Chris Beasley, of course. But let's keep it the middle ground.
Let's keep it informal. We're live on YouTube, so if you've got questions, pop them in the comments. We'll try and get around to them. But there's been some great questions coming in recently, and it's a big help during the summer months. So please do pop them in there. Give us a like, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us some stars. Leave a comment. You can do the same on Spotify at the moment as well. So please do. We really appreciate all the likes, all the comments, all the stars, and we do look at them and read them. It's great. Before we continue, a big thank you to NordVPN, our sponsors. Get on board with Nord, which I coined.
All right.
So yeah, I actually noticed a new thing.
Can you actually say it without saying you said it?
Yeah, I know.
Go on, try it again.
Good. I noticed a new thing about Nord actually, which is pretty cool. So my wife, when she works, she works for an American company, so she has like an American VPN. When she's connected to the internet, and we were buying something, I can't remember, tickets, something like that the other day, and it was well cheaper in dollars than it was pounds. And on Nord, you can switch where you are and get the best price based on where you are. Because sometimes when you're shopping online, it's cheaper to buy it in the US or the UK. I just thought that was pretty cool. So there you go. So
what did you buy?
I can't remember. As I say, I can't remember what it was, but yeah. But to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred, all one word. And our link will give you 4 months extra free on a 2-year plan, and there's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. It's the best deal around. The link is in the podcast description box. Thank you, Nord, for helping us do what we do. It's Fixtures release day. Always an exciting day in the football calendar. It's the day, Doyle and I, we were saying before, on Football Manager, where it loads the new season.
It's where... This season becomes last season, and next season becomes this season. Yeah.
That's right. That's the day.
9 a.m.
So 9 a.m. they came out, and we've already had.
Not if you're on social media though. Quite a few people breaking that embargo.
I think you'll find that only true professionals stick to an embargo. Anybody can break an embargo, but not everybody can keep to one. And that is always, I find, the key difference between the ones who can do it and the ones who can't.
Sage advice from an old hack. Right, Liverpool.
Why is that funny?
I don't know. Liverpool are
That's
away.
a lot older than me.
Away at Ipswich to start the season, then at home to Brentford, and away at Manchester United.
Yeah.
Ian, thoughts on the start?
It very much is the same as the start from 2 seasons ago, where they played a promoted team away at 12:30, Fulham. Then they played a London team at home, that was Crystal Palace, and they went to Man United. And then they took 2 points and ended up not qualifying for the Champions League. So if you like your omens, that's not one that you're going to enjoy. But, obviously this is something completely different because there's a new manager in charge. But, yeah, 12:30, they are just proper on the wind-up there, TNT, aren't they? It's like, Klopp's gone, but you know what? Let's just do this anyway. So at least it's given Arne Slot an idea of what he can expect. Loads of ridiculous kick-off times. The fans know all about having to travel to places that are miles away at totally inappropriate times. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah. What time's the first train to Ipswich?
I don't know. No. I don't know. Does it actually go to Ipswich? Because I know they go to Norwich, but even if it was to Norwich, you would never get there in time anyway, because it's about 5 hours. So, yeah, well done. Thanks a lot. And yeah, Brentford, it's pretty much, we did a piece, didn't we? This morning, or overnight, I should say, talking about Liverpool's dream scenario. And I think we were talking about how it's actually not random at all, the fixture computer. Yeah. It's not random at all. You'd never get Liverpool playing Everton or Man United on the first day of the season. Don't think it's ever happened. Someone's now going to tell me it happened in 1920 or something stupid like that. But you never get that right at the beginning. You never get that right at the end. And it invariably is the last few years that Liverpool have played either a promoted team or a team based around London. And oh look, they played another promoted team that I think it's the 5th one in the last 6 years, because they had Norwich twice, Leeds and Fulham. So nothing new for the fans, but yeah, something very new for Arne Slot. And I saw, I'd forgotten about this, but Ipswich's last game in the Premier League was at Liverpool in 2002, where they got beat 5-0. So for them, it's kind of come full circle.
Whose final game was that? Serenaded by the cop.
You're going to say
Maka.
Heskey, aren't you? I thought you were going to say Heskey then, to be fair.
no,
No,
it
he
was
was still there for another couple of years after that, wasn't he?
It was also Nicholas Nelka's final game as well. He scored, didn't he?
I seem to remember there was an own goal. Did Titus Bramble score an own goal?
Yeah, Bramble was terrible that day.
Yeah,
wasn't he?
that's right.
He had a really, really bad game. But
Reece has scored a couple.
Reece scored.
Yeah.
I think Smeets has scored because he came on for the injured Gerrard.
Yeah, I remember Anelka going through own goal and sitting down their goalkeeper before Slot and then
Before honouring.
Before honouring. And then obviously it was his final game before they swapped him for El Hadj Diouf. So
That went well.
we're getting loads of questions in already. Thank you very much. We will get to them, I promise you, throughout the podcast. So stay
going
tuned.
back to the fixtures.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think the first three, the first two fines. I mean, that United game, it's a bit of an early one, isn't it? To be at least he'll know who he's up against, because obviously it's Erik ten Hag who's been on the touchline with in Holland, but you don't really want to be playing that game quite so early, because it can be quite, indicative of the way things are going. I mean, if they get a good result, fine, but if they don't, we saw what happened, say, 2 seasons ago, United. Funny enough, it's like Ten Hag had only just taken over then, hadn't he? And of course, they're playing United in July or August or whatever it is,
August.
So yeah,
It's like
so they play
4
them,
weeks before it.
So they play them in very quick succession.
And that's what they did that year too, because that was the Darwin news for
they lost the match of the century in Bangkok. I was there. They got beat 4-0. And at the time, you were thinking, "Oh, this doesn't mean anything." But now and again, a warm-up game does, and that did mean something, because it set United on their way and put Liverpool back a bit, and they never were really able to catch up after that.
Yeah, Theo, what did you make of the start?
Well, we've already seen the Anton Deck memes, haven't we? Give Liverpool the 12:30.
Yeah, 12:30.
It's no surprise, isn't it? I can see what it suits the TV companies, doesn't it? Like, the best way of getting an upset is Liverpool as far away as possible in that horrible kick-off time. I've already had a couple of comments on Twitter going, "Oh, it doesn't matter. You're just adding drama for the sake of it. You've always got to play everyone twice, home and away, blah blah blah." But it does matter, because the order obviously makes a big difference. Whether you've got injuries or whatever, though, kick-off times, and it's just sod's law. Liverpool have got to go to a newly promoted team that is very far away in that early kick-off time, and it's going to be a big test for the new manager, or new head coach, I should say. He's going to have them really clued up, ready to go. But then, Dorley and I have been going through it earlier. Liverpool managers don't tend to have the best starts on opening day, so it's going to be a bit different.
I don't mind the opening game. I do mind that it's that far away, and I do mind it's a 12:30 kick-off. But not so much for Liverpool, but more for the fact that supporters have to travel that distance on the opening day. But in terms of playing Ipswich, I think, look, I think we did a predictions thing this morning, didn't we, Doyley, or a panel piece, and I said you don't really want to play a promoted team on the opening day, especially away from home, because that's when they're most up for it, and you want them to be humbled a few times before you go to their place and they kind of realise how difficult the Premier League is. But saying that, of the 3 promoted teams, that's probably the one that I would have looked at and gone, okay, they sort of play good football. Like Norwich the other year, Norwich were naive enough to sort of try and just play their regular game against Liverpool, and Liverpool were good enough and experienced enough to get around that. So hopefully it can go the same way.
I don't know. I'd say Ipswich is the toughest one, because
Really,
Leicester
yeah.
and Southampton have been there 2 years ago, haven't they? They're essentially Premier League teams anyway, whereas Ipswich have not been there for over 20 years. They're going to be up for it that little bit more.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right. I just feel like that Leicester and Southampton have the experience, and they'll know what that stage is all about, whereas Ipswich might be slightly naive, and they might, we saw last season, didn't we, with the way Burnley played, for example, most of the season. Burnley went into that season, tried to carry on playing the same style with the same approach as they did in the Championship, and got undone. And that's what I'm kind of hopeful
You think
for
how
with Ipswich. But
Luton did against the big teams early on?
Yeah.
I know they got done by Arsenal and that, but early on
it wasn't really till a third in that they started having good nights at Kenilworth.
And don't
Road.
forget, they didn't play any games at home for the first couple of weeks anyway,
Yeah,
because
that's
the stadium was getting rebuilt.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't like the kick-off time, and I think that's tough. But other than that, I don't really mind the fixture. I think it's decent. I think the home games are all good early on to try and get a decent run of home wins, hopefully, in to help Arne Slot settle in. And then obviously United away is a really tough one. I'd have preferred that game at home early doors, but yeah, I mean, at 3 games in, if they've got a couple of wins under their belts, then perhaps they'll go into that.
I think they've got an even record against each other, Slot and Ten Hag. I think it's 2 wins each. They're going for the title, weren't they, in the pandemic year, and there was only goal difference separating them at that time when it got called off. But Slot's Alkmaar team, they'd done the double over him already that year, Ajax, and he didn't beat them with Feyenoord, but yeah, it's quite a rivalry. We've already seen a few comments from Ten Hag, haven't we, having a cheeky dig saying Feyenoord weren't actually up to much compared to PSV last year.
Did he say that? Yeah, I haven't seen that. But yeah, I think
it's funny because United weren't really up to much compared to Liverpool.
No. But if you look back at the year, 2 years ago when United won that game, I don't think it was as much to do with United or that game pre-season. It was the fact that Liverpool had a bad start. They hadn't beaten Palace, they hadn't beaten Fulham. There was a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations to win those games. They hadn't won them games, so the pressure moved into the United game. Of course, United have been beaten in their opening two, hadn't they?
Yeah, they got beat by, was it
Brighton
and
then
Brentford?
Yeah, they got
battered,
didn't they?
Yeah, so I know what you're saying. I think the difference is obviously that there won't be this. There'll be more pressure on Ten Hag than there will on Slot, because obviously Slot's come in and he'll be given a period of grace to try and get his feet under the table, as it were. But obviously Ten Hag was, according to some people, getting sacked before the FA Cup final, or no matter what the score was, and of course that's not ended up being the case.
Well, he said he knew they were talking to new managers as well, didn't he?
Said that,
he said that he went and met him in Ibiza and said, look, we spoke to Thomas Tuchel, but we've decided the other man, which I'm pretty much sure it was more like Thomas Tuchel decided I'm not going to Man United. Yeah. So either way, he's still the manager. So I think there'll be more pressure. But yeah, there's 2 games before that.
Yeah.
It wasn't the United game, as you said 2 years ago. It was the Fulham game where you watched it and went, oh dear, this doesn't look very good. Yeah. Then the second game, obviously, it wasn't going well, and then Nunes gets sent off anyway. So, the games doesn't start for another 2 months. We've got all the transfers to come in as well, so there's an awful lot to go before we start predicting stuff.
If United got in the first 2?
Should we look?
Brentford, is it?
Keep talking. I'll look.
They play first. It's Fulham first, isn't it? They play first on the Friday night.
Yeah, they play Fulham at home on the Friday night. Oh God, I've lost that. And then keep talking.
This is good.
And Brighton away.
We'll begin with the B.
That's a tricky-ish start.
Begin with the BR, actually. Yeah.
Like new manager for Brighton as well.
So, the child that they've got in there. Yeah.
He's younger than me.
Yeah.
So we've had a question from Sanjay Mystery. Thanks again for listening. He often leaves a question, and we've got loads of questions. So just to reiterate, we will get to them. So thank you all for your questions. Hey everyone, love from Ireland. Hi Ireland. Hello. Nice to see that you're listening. Sanjay says, after seeing the fixtures, is the panel optimistic for the season, and where are the main pinch points? Well, that leads us on quite nicely to something that you've noticed, and you've written a comment piece about before we came into the pod, about the end of the season.
Oh yeah, the end of the season. Basically, if Man City are anywhere near the top at the end of February, they've won the league, because they don't play hardly anybody in the last 11 games. That they play Everton somewhere, they play United away, and I think in the last 11 games they only play 3 of this season's top 10, or last season's top 10 I should say, and 2 of them are at home. And Arsenal, of their last 10 games, 6 are at home, and they don't play very many tough games. So I think Liverpool, the last 5, they've got Tottenham at home, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home.
That's back-to-back, isn't it?
Yeah, Brighton away and Palace at home. Last 2, you go, but those 3 before that, I think that's why it's important for Liverpool to get a good start if they want to do anything this season in terms of actually challenging for the title, which is going to be tough because they've got a new manager in. So, it could have been better in that sense at the end. But, I mean, to be honest, overall, you look at the fixtures for Liverpool, there's 1 or 2 weeks, I think there's one where they play City home, then Everton away, and then City. I think it's City at home, Newcastle away, Everton away in the same week, which I think is the start of December. That's a tough one. And then in terms of the actual Premier League games, that's probably the toughest week because there's not many midweek games. But you can't complain too much the way things have gone.
Champions League was a big say too.
Yeah. Well, also the Champions League, 6 of the 8 games that they play at home the next game in the Premier League. So that's helped them a little bit as well. So, it could have been, I mentioned in my thing, it could have been better, it could have been worse. I don't think you can complain too much about it other than, oh, look, it's 12:30 on a Saturday and it's miles away for the first game. That's more of a talking point for the fans than probably for the team itself.
Are you optimistic, Theo?
Could be better, could be worse, as Doyley said. It's interesting looking at City's because we're obviously used to City just going unbeaten for half a season, and they do have a very tough, I think, 5 in a row January into February before that really kind run. So you are going to be looking at the table when it gets to that, going, what is the difference between them and Arsenal? What is the difference between them and Liverpool? Like this year, it's now last year, isn't it? We saw that they led the table the least out of that top three, but they led it when it mattered most. And this is just what City do. So it already feels like they've got the advantage in the title race. But then you're writing off Liverpool expectations a little bit because it's a new era. You're more settling for a top four finish than going for the title. You look at those final, or the 3 games against Spurs, Arsenal, and Chelsea in succession before the final 2. That's really hard. Like if you're in a title race, that is make or break. Not very optimistic at that point, but if you are just settling for top 4 finish, do well in the cup, do well in the Champions League, it's nice enough.
Yeah, I mean, look, we discussed earlier. I think a good season coming up for Liverpool is a place comfortably in the top 4 and potentially Champions League quarter-finals, a cup run.
Here's a question for you then. If Jurgen Klopp was still the manager, what would your expectations be?
To challenge for the title. I think if Klopp's still the manager, then you want to build on last season and go, well, it's third. It was third in a trophy, and again, flirting with a few other trophies and perhaps getting a bit further.
Be last in the place in the title race, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
not necessarily winning it, but just go to the last day.
Exactly. I mean, it's like anything. I don't necessarily think. I think if you get to cup finals and you get to the last day, that's all you can ask for. You know, the last day can go either way. Your cup final can. It just depends on what happens on the day, doesn't it? But as long as you're in the conversation towards the end of those things, and that's what I would have asked for with Klopp. But I think with Slot, you have to expect periods of change, periods of inconsistency. I think. I'm quite optimistic. I think Liverpool will flirt with the title challenge at times, but I don't think they'll have enough about them to last the distance compared to Man City and Arsenal. Funnily enough, the Man City's final 11 games, what we talked about earlier, I mean, I agree, it looks very easy, doesn't it, on paper, but the only time Man City have been beaten to the title in the past, 6 years, when Liverpool won it, Liverpool were miles clear of them going into that bit. So I feel like with Man City, if you want to beat them, you've got to get ahead of them early because they're just so good in the final.
They've got a tough opening day, don't they?
Chelsea away.
They got Chelsea away. Yeah.
I mean, Arsenal start. I think they play 4 of the last season's top 8 away before mid-November. So if they're still around then they're going to be fine.
They've started the last couple of seasons well, haven't they? That's been a pattern for them.
City always seem to get like an early couple of defeats out the system and then just go and beat them.
Yeah, but that's where I think you've got to build up. You've got to build up some sort of distance between yourselves and City early doors, and not just 5 points. I'm talking like probably 20 points because of the way they
But of course they'll be minus 100 points by then anyway, won't they?
Yeah,
So
maybe maybe you can be 100 points behind them, and when they get minus 101 points, Liverpool go points ahead and win the title.
No.
Okay. 1-3 in Doyle. Is there any Irish players floating around we can bring to the club besides Evan Ferguson? I think your surname is
just because we Dave's Doyle, I'm not particularly Irish. Is there? I don't know.
The Evan Ferguson hype has died down significantly.
That's because
He
got injured, didn't he? Yeah. I mean, I still think he's great, but we'll see what happens there. I can't think of any Irish players off the top of my head at the moment, to be honest.
Sorry.
More likely to see one leave than join.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that. Yeah, probably one of the best ones is the one they've already got.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Of the other, did it specify which island, by the way? There's Northern Ireland as well.
He just said Irish.
Yeah, because it's Conor Bradley, obviously.
Well, they've got the 2 best, haven't they?
There you go.
Theo, you've been doing a piece about the Champions League. Obviously, a very, very different format, which I don't really think will hit home for people until the games start. They play games in January, right?
2 games in January, yeah.
Which just seems, I mean...
They've only ever played 2 games in Europe in January ever in their entire history.
With FA Cup replays, potentially?
I don't think there are replays.
There are no replays. Are they gone completely now?
Yeah, it's 2-legged League Cup semi-finals still, which they have to fit in.
So there's potentially going to be a lot of games there, but you've noticed some potential nightmare scenarios for Liverpool to navigate.
Yeah, it all depends on the Champions League draw, which they'll find out the opponents, I think it's August 29th.
Yeah.
But with Liverpool being from England, 4 clubs there, you can play clubs from England. And the seedings don't really mean much anymore because you can face you face 2 from every pot. So Liverpool are going to face 2 pot 1 sides. So you can potentially get Manchester City twice in the space of 4 days. And you can also face, when you have Arsenal and Chelsea back-to-back the first time in the season, you could have Real Madrid bang in the middle of those 2. You could have PSG bang in the middle, Bayern Munich, Man City. So there is potential for a really nightmare run there. But then that's partly why you want to be back in the Champions League, isn't it? It's to play these big sides. But then it's also why UEFA have revamped the tournament this way to try and get the big sides playing each other more. If you want to get really optimistic and go Liverpool go all the way Champions League semi-finals, then the run we've spoken about at the end of the season, when it's those 3 London teams in succession, you got the 2 semi-final dates bang in the middle of that as well. So that is another nightmare run at the end of the season. But let's not get too carried away just yet.
No. Yeah, one of the quirks of the fixture list, I've just been sent this, by the way, is that West Ham don't actually play a game outside of London until November. Because they've got home games and they play Palace, Fulham, Brentford and Tottenham away.
Well, there you go. It's easy travelling for the West Ham fans. I'm going to get some questions now because we've got some good ones coming in and I want to get to them. So keep them coming in and we will get them throughout the episode. But we'll start with one that we've answered for a fair bit here on the Blood Red podcast, but we will answer again. When are we going to see the new manager?
Not yet. Still on his holidays.
Depends if you're in Ibiza.
Yeah.
You might see him if you're in the same hotel.
You might catch him.
Yeah, of course he could be bumpy. He could be over with Ten Hag, have a little chat. Although Ibiza is obviously a reasonably sized island, so I'd be surprised if they're right next to each other.
Still expecting maybe in about 10 days, 12 days time, the end of this month, early next month.
Well, it's going to be before they start playing the games, so yeah, as in
they're
the
still
warm-up
not
games, not
confirmed
the
the rest of
Premier
the
League
friendlies yet, have they?
Well, that's it. We're expecting them. They'll have to play some games before they go out to America, so I'd expect they play 1 or 2, and then they'll probably play 1 afterwards. I know I spoke to Liverpool and said that just because they've had these concerts on and they've got a few more to come as well. Not sure whether you heard, but Taylor Swift was here the other.
Well,
we
come to Taylor Swift.
We'll come there in a bit. Pink. Is anyone else coming apart from Pink? Are the Eagles coming? No, they've already played with earlier the year.
It's just Taylor Swift and Pink.
Is that it? Yeah. Well, they haven't ruled out playing a game at Anfield, is basically what I'm saying, necessarily. Although I'm not aware of any plans for the B1.
That would be
place.
the late one, wouldn't it? If they did. Yeah. Okay. Let me get to another question. Hopefully Ben Doak becomes a well-beater under Arne. Speedy, tough and skillful Scotsman. Happy days. It's a big season for Ben Doak, isn't it? Obviously, last season we expected a bit of a breakout year for him. He had some bad injuries that's disrupted that. What do you think the future holds for him? Do you think a loan this year, or do you think keep him a part of the squad and see if he gets more chances?
It depends how bad that last injury was, the one that's ruled him out of the Scotland squad. If it's just a precautionary thing, he's had a knock, you don't want to risk him, and he's fine for the start of pre-season. It's a massive pre-season for him to impress the manager, make up for that lost time. But if not, and he is playing catch-up, maybe it's a few months with the 21s and then go on loan. Because I reckon that really stung him last year. Because Liverpool had the injuries, he was sort of in that middle ground. Yeah. He wasn't getting off the bench, or he's the extra man travelling to games. He wasn't playing for the 21s because the games clashed with the first team. And it was just ironic that when he did get that first 21s game, it's the one he got the injury in. So he needs game time. He's still very young. We know how talented he is, but he's still raw as well. He needs to work on his final ball a little bit. A championship loan could work wonders for him, but at the same time, we've seen players really flourish in the 21s and then step up into the first team. So it's just when he's available in pre-season, what he does in pre-season, and then you have a look at him there.
It's easy to forget, isn't it, Dudley, that he came off the bench in the opening day fairly early. Did he come off Salah?
Yeah, Salah was nappy because he didn't have his opening day goal.
Yeah, and he'd had a good pre-season and he came off the bench, and I was watching that abroad, and one of the guys said to me, "Who's this player?" And I said, "Oh yeah, he's meant to be really, really good. Obviously had a good pre-season, and I think that showed how highly Klopp thought of him." There was a time when players went out on loan from Liverpool and didn't often come back to do a great deal, but in recent years that's changed, hasn't it? And a loan could do him some good, I suppose.
Quansah, Bradley, those two. I'm sure there's another one. Oh, Harvey Elliott. Yeah, so those three who are now part of the first team squad. You're right with Ben Doak. I think it's funny, there's him and Kay Gordon. I know I mentioned Kay Gordon a few times before, but Gordon's a tiny little bit older, and he's got a bit of momentum given the way he ended. I know he's playing the Premier League 2, but he's said this before. Kay Gordon played in a League Cup semi-final 2.5 years ago, so we know he can do it at that level. And I think if you were going to decide between the two, because we did do a piece, didn't we, yesterday? Well, I did a piece yesterday talking about what could happen to a lot of the fringe players. I suggested keep Gordon around. Like playing in League Cups and keep him there. But with Ben Doak, I think last season, not only did he get injured, but because he was kind of caught in between being in the first team squad and never getting on, and therefore never being able to play for the Premier League in Premier League 2 for the under-21s, he hardly played any minutes. So I think he needs to get more minutes under his belt, and he's going to be best served doing that by going out on loan. That's my shout. But, Not sure whether anybody's noticed. I'm not in charge of Liverpool or the
You're
loan
not?
pathwary. No, sorry, no.
We said that
I
about
mean,
Bobby
invariably
Clark in
don't
the
say
past,
anything.
don't we?
Oh,
And
sorry?
we said it about Bobby Clark in the past. Like I think it was last year or the year before. Go out on loan, and it didn't happen. So sometimes sticking around does work out in the long
what
run.
I'm saying is that the likes of Jadon Dans, Lewis Kumas, Trey and Yoni, there's no point any of them going anywhere because they're young enough to carry on their progression. I think with, say, Kay Gordon, it's different. He's done it. He missed 18 months through injury. I think he'd be in and around the first team now otherwise. But he's got to convince a new manager. And it's not just him, but all the other youngsters do as well. I mean, obviously, Slot will be made well aware of them by the people at the academy, because don't forget, it's not just, Klopp that's gone. You got Linders has gone, and Vitor Matos has gone, and they were quite key in getting players across in the academy. And it's just going to take time for Slot and his coaching staff to work out which players best fit what he wants to do and what he wants to play, and which ones have got the potential. But they'll have spent the time working out who's who, what's what, so they won't know. They'll know what to expect, but if not exactly what to expect. But yeah, if you're making the decision now, like they've already made a decision with Calvin Ramsey, for example, because they know that Conor Bradley's there, Trent's there, Gomez is there. You've got enough right backs, and he's somebody who hasn't played an awful lot for the past 2 years, that's what makes me think. Certainly with Gordon and Doak, one of them will probably go on loan and one of them will stay.
Yeah.
I've mentioned in which order I do that, but if it's the other way around, you wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting with how pre-season falls, because they're going to be back in pre-season before the Euros is over, before the Copa America's over. Although that's 14 players are away on international duty, isn't it, for the two? So that's a massive bulk of your squad. So the youngsters are going to have to step up, and they've got those 2-3 weeks to make an impression on the manager. And
They'll play a
into.
lot, won't they? In the tour.
I think
Well, that's why they'll
Rodgers took over.
That's why they'll want games so they can play.
I think when Rodgers took over, how many youngsters there? And it's always that where are they now pieces, because you had like Adam Morgan and all these
Adam
kids
Morgan
there.
scored against Roma, and he was coaching my little boy not that long ago.
So yeah, this is going to be that big step up time, and it's interesting that Ramsey's the one who's gone out early because he needs the game time, but there's not been that early decision on, say, a James McConnell. We've seen him linked with the move away. You'd imagine that's the next right step for him. But you're going to have a look at like a Tyler Morton, those players that are coming back. There's a lot of players to make decisions about in the summer when you've got those few weeks before all the senior boys come back.
Tyler's interesting. I'd love to see what's going to happen with him because he's done really well for the last two at Blackburn. He got both seasons. I'm led to believe he got a bit tired towards the end.
He got injured with Blackburn, didn't he?
Yeah, so he's fallen away a little bit, but then that's to be expected when he's still only 2021, isn't he? Yeah. So at that age, if you're playing that often, you are going to get tired. But yeah, he's somebody who, all the way through the academy ranks, he was seen as one of the best players. We've seen him play for the first team. When he played, there was a couple of games where he played defensive midfield in the Klopp setup, and I was like, not so sure about this. I think it was Tottenham away he had to play there, where they drew 2-2, where like Fabinho and somebody else was missing out through COVID.
Was that when Robertson got sent off as well?
No, that was the season before. Was it? He got sent off in the 2-1, didn't he? That's right.
I was thinking the 2-0.
Was it the 2-0 where he got sent off?
Maybe.
Is that the Jota penalty? I can't remember. They all merge into one, my age. Well, people listening will know what game I'm on about. But he's since played as part of a 2 all season at Hull. I know it's a different level, but it's still a reasonable level of Championship.
Good footballing side as well.
Yeah. So, which is why they got rid of the manager. That didn't make any sense. I'd like to see what he can do during the summer and see the way things go forward with him. And go back to James McConnell. That's why I think he'll go out on loan.
Yeah, Storm in the Teacup asks when is the team travelling back from pre-season? Lots of travelling. 12:30 kick-off is a disgrace. I think they're back from the US around the 3rd of August, the 4th of August.
It's a 2-week gap between them.
Oh yeah, and they'll play at least one of the friendly back, whether it's abroad or here. There'll be another one.
Go to Deepdale again.
Yeah, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. Storm in a Teacup.
See Jörg Smanker having a fag at half time outside. That was good.
Yeah.
Although we thought he was doing nothing, it turns out he was actually signing Endo. So, shows you what we know.
Yeah. Kumar has asked, where are we with the deal of Dario Osorio to Liverpool? I thought it was close. I've never heard of him in my life. In fact, I've just Googled
Never
him.
heard of Kumar?
So,
Come on.
He plays for Midgetland.
You can't say that.
I can't say. I'm sorry.
You can't say that. You cannot say
Mithyland.
that.
Can I not say that?
We always have this debate when they come up, don't we?
Yeah.
The
Scored 8
Danish
goals
side
last
that Liverpool
season. The
played in
Danish side.
Champions League,
scored 8 goals last season. Plays for Chile.
How old is he?
Yes, I've heard him linked.
20s. Yeah.
I've heard him linked, but no, I've not heard anything in terms of progress about that. Sorry.
Say they did sign him. If he's 20 and he's coming out of Denmark, he's not ready for the first team. Like, there's a big gap in between that.
I don't necessarily think that would be the case, though, would it? But yeah, I think that shows how close that is. Kumar, yeah, don't know too much about him.
Probably sign it tomorrow.
So, so there, we'll see. We've got, if both goalkeepers go this summer, do you think there's a chance for Pepe Reina reunion as a third goalkeeper?
That's an interesting shout. No, because I'll tell you why. Because he wants to keep on playing, and there's absolutely no chance he'll be playing if he comes here.
He'd be the Adrian replacement.
Yeah, he would. Adrian, what do you make of the prospect that he might still be staying?
Move on.
The one they were linked with, the third choice one, was Alex McCarthy, wasn't it? So then that would take the homegrown box that we all love so much.
Do you mean you love so much?
You love that homegrown box.
You love it. You love a homegrown
This is a good
box.
question because you've done a few pieces on this recently. What percentage of profits from summer concerts can Liverpool use towards transfers? Now, we don't know how much they're going to use towards transfers, but these concerts with Taylor Swift and now Pink, they're a massive part of what FSG's
Liverpool.
doing. It's something we've discussed.
I'm going to be writing about this later this week, but Liverpool are going to make money off that, and that will end up feeding back into the transfer fund, whether it's directly or indirectly. That's just the way things are. So it's a good, FSG haven't got everything right, and some things they got massively wrong because they've been there for 14 years, and it's not. And it's not cool, for want of a better word, to say, look at these owners, look how well they've done, but it is very good that they had the foresight to make sure that Anfield was a venue for concerts, because 5 years down the line, they've managed to get the biggest music superstar in the entire world to come and play at their stadium for 3 nights in a row. And they're,
Have they asked you to do a gig yet?
not yet. We could be support,
Finch,
although we are doing the Owl's Nest Haydock August the 10th. Please turn up. So yeah,
Let's put that in the podcast
exactly.
description box.
So they do deserve credit for that, because they've done something that not only, and to be fair, it not only just benefits Liverpool, the club, but it benefits the whole city. And Everton will see that and go, well, we've got a new stadium, we can do something similar. So that's going to be a benefit to everybody. So, for once, they've done something good that everybody can appreciate, not just football fans, because obviously there's most of the, well, I won't say most, but a lot of the people who turned up at Anfield would have been the first time they'd been going into, certainly Anfield, possibly a football stadium, to watch something.
And they might have bought themselves a replica shirt, they might have bought themselves a scarf, a hat as well from the club shop.
There's a fair few Swift 13 shirts going around, weren't there?
Yeah. So, it's great exposure for Liverpool, it's great exposure for the city. Obviously, those types of artists, I think, often go to Manchester. So to get them to come here, I think, is massive.
Obviously, I upset her as well, didn't I?
Yeah, I was about to come on to that. She didn't break the attendance record, did she, Ian?
No, well, to be fair to her, she said, the first night she walked on, she said, I've just been told as I'm walking on that there's never been this many people in this room before, isn't that great, etc., etc. And when I heard about that, I was like, not entirely sure about that. So did a bit of digging around, and while it was the record for a concert at Anfield of about 53,000, obviously it's still nowhere near the capacity that Anfield's got at the moment, let alone the attendance record, which was 61,000 something or another about 70 years ago.
So there you go.
And then they got a bit upset, didn't they, the Swiss
Yeah,
people? Because they hadn't read the thing properly, had they? Let's be honest.
We did put that in. So apologies, Taylor. We didn't mean to upset you, but Ian didn't mean to upset you.
I didn't mean to upset her. I thought I was very, very generous in what I wrote. I even said that it wasn't her that had initially, been told it. Said it. I said she'd been told it. Please don't write a song about me.
I hope she does. Would Finch write a song about her in return? Could you end
cover
up
one of her songs?
Beefing with Taylor Swift and do?
It's not quite like one of those rap beefs, is it? Taylor
Biggie
Swift and a
Tupac.
bunch of 40 to
Finch
50-year-old men.
versus
Is
Taylor.
it? Let's be honest. Yeah. I also think we'd probably lose the
might
popular
do, yeah.
vote. We'd probably lose the popular vote. I don't think we're going to get 150,000 people turning up to watch us.
Did you get many Swifties in your mention after that story?
I had one or two. But you could tell that, these people just hadn't read it properly. But then how does that differentiate them from most people who read my stuff anyway? Certainly on social media.
Please tell us whose side you're on. Are you on Taylor Swift's side, or are you on Finch, which is the band that Ian Doyle plays in? Whose side are you on in this beef? Because Yeah, it's a
Is this a
huge
beef
belief.
that you've just generated?
Yeah, I think.
It's got nothing to do with Finch. It's just me personally, isn't it?
Yeah, but that translates into
Yeah,
your band,
suppose
doesn't it?
so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be Finch against the whole of country music, because obviously that's where what did I call her? The Pennsylvania-born Tunesmith. Yeah, that's
There
where
you
she's
go.
from.
Do you think Trent's midfield experiments during the Euros will provide Slot with any valuable data? Theo, I'll let you take this. You've been a big England fan and all.
It is something that Liverpool are going to have to consider anyway. Like we know now, they've got a very, very good young right back in Connor Bradley. So it's whether you want to try to find a way to fit them both in the team. We've said on this podcast before, if Slot does go to that 2-man pivot, it could suit Trent. He did really well around, was it the Christmas period, where he was going into midfield for a few games. But I think Liverpool just like versatile players, don't they? It's not going to be a Slot comes in, you are only going to be a right back, or you are only going to be a midfielder. Trent's obviously got a lot of criticism from some sections for his performance against Serbia. I thought he did all right. There was one mistake where he nearly gives Mitrovic a goal, but he's done a couple of really good passes, a good interception that nearly led to a goal when Walker just sprints half the length of the pitch. And it's something you want to see more of. And if he's going to make mistakes, do them for England. So you've got it all tuned up perfectly when you come back for Liverpool.
I think it's really tough to judge someone on their performances for England. It's just a completely different setup, completely different team. I just don't like that sort of comparison.
In answer to your question, obviously I've written the piece, every international tournament says don't buy anybody on the strength of a good international tournament. So from that basis, don't move somebody into another position on the basis of what they do in that tournament. You move them if you feel as though they're going to do a job for you, with, as Theo said, with the players that you've got, rather than, as you said, the players they got at England. So I watched that game and managed to stay awake in the second half. It wasn't particularly great, although they won, so you can't complain too much. I'm pretty sure Belgium and Ukraine would have swapped the results.
Argentina lost to Saudi, didn't they, in the first game of the last World Cup?
Well, that's true. Well, Scotland, that's what they were saying. They got beat by Germany 5-1, and they were saying, well, Argentina lost their first game. They go on and win it.
Scotland, European champions.
But overall, I think the Trent thing, I think he did okay. I wouldn't have subbed him, by the way. I'd have taken Trippier off, put Walker left back, Trent right back, and brought Conor Gallagher on. You need to keep Trent on the pitch, I think. And that's the only way he's going to get any better. I think that's the mistake that Southgate made, was subbing him rather than taking off. Let's say Trippier could have taken off Foden, who did nothing. Mm-hmm. Should have brought on Kane as well at some point.
There's so many great club players who have not played well for England or any other international team.
Even though John Barnes scored one of the most famous goals in English history.
Yeah. So it's not... I can't stand the whole Trent debate every time he plays for England, and because they play him in midfield now, I think it just...
why
everyone's had an opinion.
Why don't they have a debate over some of the other players I just mentioned? It wasn't Kane's fault. The team was set up to not give him the ball. Yeah. But Foden didn't play particularly well, but we know he's a footballer of the year. He's brilliant. He plays for Man City. He's probably England's most technically gifted player, certainly at the moment.
If you do it on form as well, Trippier shouldn't be in that team. Walker shouldn't be on that team, but there's no one else.
Yeah, but I think Walker's got enough credit in the bank, to be honest, I think. And also, he just played for Man City, just did win the league, so...
I think your dad's listening. He said, really enjoy the show. Love Ian Doyle's personality.
They won't be my dad.
No.
100% won't be my dad. It's not on Talking Pictures.
Thank you for listening. He said, thank you, really enjoy the show. Love Ian Doyle's personality. And then in big capitals, Team Finch. So there you go.
See your brother instead.
Yeah, he probably, he never does any work.
Any more questions before they put them in? We'll just have a quick run through the key dates again from the fixture list that was released today. Man United away, August 31st. Chelsea at home, October 19th. Arsenal away, October 26th. Man City at home, November 30th. Liverpool always seems to play Man City at home. Imagine they played them away last year, didn't they?
We made a big point of that being a rare time where they played them away first.
Don't you read the Echo website?
No. Everton,
we know.
Everton away, December the 7th. Was it December the 7th when they played Everton at home and beat them, and Marco Silva got sacked? Pretty sure it was, because it was
around about then, wasn't it? Yeah. If only there was an Everton fan here who could tell us whether it was then. Yeah, we got the nod.
We're getting the nod. Tottenham away on December 21st. Leicester at home is the Boxing Day fixture. West Ham away on December 29th. Man United at home on January 4th. Big 2025 clash. Man City away February 22nd. Everton at home April 2nd. Of course, the Everton away fixture in December is Liverpool's last ever trip to Goodison Park, which would be interesting. Tottenham at home on April 26th. Chelsea away May 3rd. Arsenal at home May 10th. That could be a huge game.
Most of them are going to move, though, aren't they?
Yeah, of
Liverpool
course,
just going to be playing on Sunday.
Same weekend though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think there's not much reason to move any of the games because the FA Cup's been set aside third, fourth, fifth quarter-finals, so in the semi-final and the final, isn't it?
Yeah.
That clash. So most of them will be playing on those dates. Them weekends anyway.
Yeah. E-Page says, I'm not Ian's dad.
Good.
So I'm glad we've
I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would have been a bit of a shock
And,
for me. Imagine that breaking news on this
yeah.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your actual real father, Darth Vader.
If we can ever do that on the podcast, I'd love to. It'd be great. No, like,
We've got very
reveal someone's
specific
parents.
criteria there.
Yeah.
Can we employ somebody
Yeah.
who's got doubts over their parentage? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Aldi said, need a music pinch? Listen to Finch. There you go. Is that your tagline? I don't think it's as good
It's
as
not as good as
Getting Bored.
Nord. No.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
we'll let
it's
Joe
got
come
that.
up with something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could cinch. There you go. That'd work.
I think,
We could be sponsored by them.
I think Ryland's already got that covered, doesn't he? The
Yeah,
cinch?
we'll get him on, yeah.
I still like the Nordies when we did the end of season awards. Or was it the Klopp awards?
That was Nordies, wasn't it? Yeah, they were
Nordies,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
You weren't there for that one. That's why we enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, that's very nice. Well,
Any more questions?
anything more either of you'd like to say? There's no more questions.
Can we just quickly discuss the European Championships, which are ongoing? And let's be honest,
Yep,
while
okay.
we don't like international football, come back. While you might not like international football, you still probably watch some of the games.
Watched about 10 minutes of France last night, and yeah, that's probably
Yeah, that's all you watched.
only no, not full stop, but that's what I did last night. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see much
What's
of the
the
game last
Scotland
night. I
player
did see Mbappe break his nose though. Went out. I bet that hurt.
Yeah.
Szoboszlai for Hungary wasn't very good, was he? I know he set up a goal. Did you see that game? I know you would have watched it.
I didn't actually.
What? Oh, anyway, he wasn't particularly great. He carried on his end of season Liverpool form into that. So,
It's a little bit of a worry, isn't it, with Szoboszlai? I think.
I wonder whether he's just tired.
Yeah.
Whether he's just tired, and it'd just be interesting to see now that game's out the way. And to be honest, they only have to beat Scotland to get through realistically. So they've probably got a chance of getting through. Sorry to Andy Robertson, but Scotland are terrible. So. Yeah, you'd like to see him improve. Canati didn't play in the end, did he?
No,
For France,
no, it was
after
a
all,
surprise,
after all that,
Saliba
yeah.
started.
After all that, and we've just mentioned Trent, so
Gakpo.
you have to. We're going to get up to him, yeah. Gakpo, and although Martin Keown thought Van Dijk was terrible, even though you looked at the stats and he actually wasn't. I think you do have to look at these performances from these players because they do end up. You look at Gakpo finished the season strongly. He started it strongly. The championships. Szoboszlai ended the season reasonably poorly. He started it poorly. There is. A correlation between the two. So you do want your players, club players, to be doing reasonably well. Certainly you don't want them to be doing poorly because you want them to hit the ground running, and Slot will need that when they come back. So
Diaz did well before he got crunched in his friendly.
Yeah, he's been doing well, hasn't he? Scoring.
it's almost like he's playing for a move.
Nunes has also been doing quite well for
Yeah,
Uruguay,
there you
hasn't he,
go.
recently?
So, yeah.
He seems a lot happy. I was looking at his Instagram stuff the other day. He's not interacting. Liverpool had done a lot of 2 years of Darwin posts. He didn't really interact with them, and I thought that was quite interesting. He's potting a lot about Uruguay. Maybe he's just putting his Uruguay head on and saying, you know what, I'm concentrating on
It's a big
international
deal
duty,
for
which is
them.
fine.
Copa America's
Yeah.
huge. And they probably think they've got a chance of winning it.
Yeah, they certainly do. I think, don't they? So,
Well, Brazil seem to have gone to pot a little bit.
yeah, Brazil.
They've been really poor form since the World Cup, really.
Yeah, Ronaldinho was.
Yeah, so that,
not-
yeah.
That was marketing, though.
Sorry.
That wasn't actually him having a little rant. Apparently, that was just supporters' comments, and it was a marketing campaign to get everyone to support them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
No.
I didn't realise that until after I wrote the piece, and everyone else wrote the piece because it was like the next day they came out and said it was this like
Yeah,
PR
because
campaign.
Vinicius Junior said, didn't he? He said, I'm not sure why I don't understand why he'd be complaining. He was asking me for tickets 2 days ago.
But yeah, everyone's missed the fact that it was just a PR campaign to get more fans to support Brazil.
Well,
interesting.
it made less fans support Ronaldinho for a bit. Anyway,
We're all very concentrated on the Euros, but obviously Liverpool have got some of their biggest stars over in the Copa America, and they were back even later because I think the Copa America group stages don't even finish till like the very end of July. So
Tournament finishes overall
no,
the same
it's
day.
the same day.
Does
It's the
it-
same
does it finish
night.
the
Yeah,
same day?
yeah. So
Okay,
it's the end of June is when the groups finish.
that's the
So they end up being about 10 days behind for a bit.
Because
or
what
a
Copa
week.
starts? Is it Thursday?
Yeah. So it's about
they all play for teams that stand a chance of getting quite far in the competition, don't they? They're not like the best one in the world. Szoboszlai and Hungary, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, and Uruguay will all hope to progress quite far.
I think Brazil and Colombia are in the same group as well. So one of them could do Slot a favour and knock
Yeah.
the other one out.
I actually think Liverpool really need Uruguay to have a great tournament with Nunes at the forefront of it, or them to go out early so they can get him back and just get him training under Slot and sort of get his head right. Because I still feel there's a bit of work to be done there with Nunes. He didn't end last season well, and I think he's an emotional guy who's let it get to him. So
Who else is in the Euros that hasn't played yet?
Jota.
That's right. He'll be playing tonight.
Must be today,
Is
mustn't
it
it?
tonight? Yeah. No, it's not. Is it tonight? Yeah, it'll be tonight. It must be because everybody's played otherwise. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
thanks for that. Right. Well, thanks very much for all your comments, all your questions.
Do we still do a person of the week?
All your likes? We do a person of the week.
Oh, I know it's
gonna
going to be
get
then. It's Gakpo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's no
The
debate
Nord
about that.
person of the week.
Not
is-
Taylor. Did we give it Taylor last week? Coming in.
I'm not giving it now because she's been
because you're
fed
beefing-
lies.
You're beefing
Yeah.
with her.
Mm.
Yeah.
What about
There you
Stewie
go.
Carroll?
Stewie Carroll had a great tournament as well. Great tournament. Great Taylor Swift. Anyway, that's Stephen Gerrard, which was nice.
Can we just ignore that because that'll take a very long
Yeah.
time to explain. It's
Yeah.
very much an in joke
Yeah.
that our listeners and viewers don't wish to
Yeah.
hear.
I think Gakpo's a good shout, isn't it? Gakpo or Taylor.
Yeah.
They can share it. They can share this Nord VPN person of the week. I think Taylor deserves it. She's brought a lot of eyes to Anfield and had 3
Are
successful
you going to
shows.
fly out and present her with the award?
I will
No
do
one
if
else
she,
has
if
got
she
one,
needs
so
me
why
to.
should she get one?
If she needs me to give her a physical trophy, Miss Train,
What about the blood red mug?
I'll go and present it to Taylor. Taylor, if you're listening, I'll
Would it
go
be
and
an
present it.
unchipped one or a chipped one?
That's the only one we've got, so there you go.
Is that the only one we've got left?
I've got an
Where have all
unchipped
the
one.
others gone?
Considering I don't drink
Where
tea or
loads of it?
coffee.
You've got one, have you?
Yeah.
Bring it
Where?
in.
At home.
You're taking it home,
Well, I was given it 6 years ago.
and
This might be a conversation to have after the podcast. The numbers are just going like this. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you for liking, subscribing, for giving us stars and everything else. And thanks to Nord for their support as well. We'll be back on Friday to discuss more Liverpool things, answer more of your questions, and we'll see you then. Ta-ra.